Rookies and cash cows, they're the most important part of our squad and they dictate our structure. And today, we're going to give you the must-have rookies and rank them in order of priority. Let's go!
Hodge has done it from nowhere. Forced in the goal from inside the 10. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty.
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on X or Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it, at Ball Boys Fantasy. And I'm joined by Luke Rogerson, coach of the Oxlongs, other half of the Ball Boys, and footy enthusiast.
I'm hyped up by your impromptu dance moves during the intro music there.
How can you not dance to those boys?
You've got to get hyped about rookies and get hyped about the Ball Boys intro music.
Absolutely. So before we go, we're going to go in this podcast. We're going to do some rankings of each position, how they sit right now, at least in my mind, which is a very messy place to be right now. But before we do that, we're going to talk about the overall landscape of the rookies and ask the question, do we have a rookie crisis on our hands? Because going into the practice matches, I felt pretty good. Felt like, you know, this rookie crop, we've talked about this midfield rookie crop especially, looks pretty good. I don't think anyone really put their hand up in the first practice matches, so it left us a lot of us feeling a bit nervous about putting some of these guys on our field.
Yeah, I can only think of a couple that I looked at and thought you've really put your hand up. Maybe we are going to be okay because we've got a buttload of mid-prices that potentially are putting their hands up. But these next 2 weeks will tell us a lot. I mean, we remember sitting here at a similar time last year and the year before that and asking similar questions, but especially with the round zero free look. I think it opens up a lot of things. So, I mean, that probably links well with what I want to say, which is neither of us would consider ourselves rookie experts. There's people out there that really dig into it.
It's a great way to sell the video, Luke.
Turn off now. Go watch something else. You know, there's people out there that go deep dive onto some of these players, but at the end of the day, we all need to make sure that they're selected in round one. Yeah. And there's not many rookies that you can say with 100% certainty are just walk-up starts at their team. So that means that there's a little bit of water to go under the bridge yet, but who have we got our eyes on so far, I guess? Yeah,
so I think the other thing you said there, like we've still got, this is just the first practice matches, and a lot of teams will approach it differently. Some will go out there and do a full dress rehearsal and do everything. Some will divide their teams in half and have one team play one half and another team play another half.
Some will have a threesome.
Some will have a threesome with two other clubs. It's fair game all around. So love is love, guys. But it's hard to sort out the mess with this first one. The second practice match is the community series game. I believe will be a little bit more of what we're going to expect to see come round one. And then, like you said, the round zero is legit stuff. So we're actually going to see, especially for those round zero teams, the rookies especially, we're going to get crystal clear idea of their roles. We're going to see what their score, have a good eyesight on what their cash generation is going to be early on. And that's going to make it really easy to choose or leave out some of those rookies. So right now, I'm feeling a bit murky with some of the rookies, and I'm ranking them, but I think I can flip and flop all these guys any which way. I'm hoping in 1 week's time, we'll have a bit more definitive of an answer with some of these guys. So we'll go into rank the rookies a little bit in a second. But before we do, guys, this podcast is sponsored by Keeper Fantasy, a brand new draft platform for you guys to go and do both your redraft leagues and your keeper and dynasty leagues. It has lots of cool new features, include a draft pick trading, category league scoring. You can customize your own scoring in points leagues. You can manipulate the start and finish time of your draft. Lots and lots of functionality there that hasn't been there in the past. So definitely go and check that one out, guys. If you're a big draft sweaty like myself, or you want to get into draft, and I would definitely recommend it, have a go if you haven't already. KeeperFantasy.com is the best place for you guys to give that a try.
Sounds like it's even got enough features to make me good at draft. So
yeah, man, I'm telling you.
That's got to be a huge tick.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to be a sweaty. You could jump on in there, and it's all pretty Again, I'm using it for the first time because it is brand new, and it seems very intuitive to go in there and figure some things out. So very simple, which is we like to see as fantasy coaches because we're not some of us aren't the technological savvy people out there that you'd hope us to be. But let's talk about these rookies. Defense. Now, this is my list, but we talked a little bit about this pre-pod, but you give me your thoughts here too as well, Luke. Number one, and this is not necessarily a comment on him, but the state of our defense. Bo Allen is my number one defender rookie. Then I've got Zach Reed. I'm counting him as a rookie, but I've got Jackson Pryor, not technically a rookie, but cash cow. Caleb Smith from Richmond, and Toby Travalia at number 5, who, again, only played one quarter, but I still have him as a top 5 rookie. Honourable mentions to James Leake and Saad Al-Houli. What does this list do to your confidence, Luke?
Yeah.
Are these guys, anyone screaming out to you that you're happy to put them on field in this list here?
It's not. It's got me a little bit worried from that perspective. And like we said, I mean, we've got a couple more weeks to see these guys, and this list will probably change over that time as well. But Bo Allen, this West Coast game was one that you watched almost going back more than a week now.
Yeah.
I think you liked seeming job security.
I liked
and
the
a
role.
Potentially nice role.
Yeah, I think he had probably a decent role on these guys. I don't think he's going to be a huge scorer, but I think he probably has more potential scoring than like a Zach Reed. And I think on a team like West Coast, you would expect the job security to be solid.
Yeah.
So it ticks a couple boxes there. I think he's a solid bench option. Don't know if I want him at D6. I guess maybe the D6 option out of these guys is probably Jackson Pryor. Now, I must admit, I wasn't looking for him too much in the game we were watching, and I probably need to give him a closer look over in this next matchup. But he's obviously come from Brisbane, where it's hard to crack into that side. So that game is going to have actually already happened by the time this podcast comes out.
Keep that in mind. So this one will come out on the Wednesday. Jackson Pryor might have worked his magic against Geelong, what will be yesterday by the time you're seeing this, and that could change the order of the list as well. But like you said, a slightly more established player, a player that's been in a system for a little while, and that can sometimes help, I think.
Yeah. A guy that I think maybe is not on a lot of our radars, but I think at least needs to be someone you know the name of, is Caleb Smith from Richmond. He's going to be playing a halfback role if he does make the round one side, and this game will be airing tonight when this podcast does come out. Or maybe has already happened if you listen to it a bit late. So he's just a $230K basement price. Richmond, again, like the Eagles, you'd expect if he's in the side, he probably has at least a bit of staying power.
Yeah.
And like we said with some of these other guys, I think they're going to chip it around a fair bit. I think he could benefit a lot from that, and the ball's going to live down there. So low price means low risk. I think he'll get at least multiple goes at it, even if you do find he's dropped. Like, he'll come back from time to time if that's the case. But I thought he looked okay in the match sim against West Coast. Keeping in mind that they did have quite a few players miss that game. So just another one to watch.
Toby Travalia was one that, not that you weren't impressed by him in the match sim, but it just potentially didn't find as much pill as you were hoping for.
Well, it's never a good sign if you don't play the first 3 quarters.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I think with the time he had in there, he did as much as he probably could. But why not play him more if you expect him to be there round one is my question.
Was it that St Kilda divided up their team awkwardly like we saw with Collingwood, or it did feel like it was ones and then Scoobies? Yeah,
I mean, like, players like McRae and Seal played most of the game. Like Wang was out there most of the game. Like, he definitely seemed to come in as like he was like a possibles kind of player in. Like, he kicked a brilliant goal from 50 meters in the final quarter. Looked as easy as anything. So I do think there's a little bit of hope that his play in that final quarter just turned some heads and said, okay, let's give this guy more opportunity in the next practice match. And if he takes that opportunity, I do still think there's a world where he can be a pick. But he's more on the edge of the team than I probably thought of before this game.
You could probably
so job security concerns.
I mean, you can probably pick up from the tone of our voices that there's not a huge amount of confidence in any of these guys.
Yeah.
And for that very fact, right at the moment, I've got Sam DeConing as my D6, which we typically like to at least find one rookie that can play on our field. But I think at the moment it's worth experimenting with a team that you potentially like that doesn't have a rookie there. That's not to say that can't change.
And you might get some defenders that pick up DPP later. You know, maybe a Xavier Lindsay, maybe it is Connor Stone or someone like that, and they're playing well enough to go on the field. And it's a bit of a restructure, but that won't be until after round 5. So, but then again, keep in mind, like we've got 3 of the first 4 rounds, best 18. So if you've got a shit scoring D6, maybe it doesn't matter.
Drop off.
So there's something to that. I mean, again, the biggest takeaway I want from this podcast to be is don't stress out too much yet if they're not putting their hands up after the first round of practice matches. I think we'll get a lot more information in these second community series games. But that's how it's looking to me at the moment. Honorable mentions in James Leake, much like Travalia, didn't play the first 3 quarters. And with a lot of their guys out, I'm more concerned about that than I am Travalia. And Sardell Hooley played more than those guys, but the way we saw it, he didn't quite feel like he put his hand up and said, pick me in your starting squad.
Especially with Dylan Shield going back there and looking like he was offering something different. But the thing is, you know, if Sardell Hooley is in their calculations, players can have bad games.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
He
turns around in the next game, plays really well, and suddenly he's a lock for their round 0 team. So
100%.
You've got to keep these guys in your sights anyway. Tell me it gets better in the midfield, Mitch.
No, doesn't get better. Oh, well, it's better, but it's also not, because we had some options potentially taken away from us. Obviously, we've got
Jagger
Smith, thank you. He's done his ACL, so he's ruled out. The other option in Sam Lawler might be there, but also might not be there round 1. He has a hairline fracture in his jaw. Also got concussed. I think that'll obviously be sorted by round 1, but chances are we're not going to see him in the next practice match either. Then you've got players like Levi Ashcroft, didn't play the first half of their game, played the second half. Now, funnily enough, at number 1, I have Levi Ashcroft, because the way I read it is that because the games were a bit weird, they were versing a couple of different opponents, that they were intentionally kind of maybe splitting some things around a bit. And I think when he did come on and play that second half, he looks good. So I think, and with the class of what we've seen and heard about him, I think he gets a good go. Now, Brisbane's a tough team to stay in there, but with the best 18, he's a guy I'd happy to have a punt on. Number 2 for me was Harvey Langford from Melbourne. I think he just looks at home in an AFL side. Like, he doesn't look like a kid playing against men out there. Like, he's a big lad. Not a big boy, which we talked about on Monday, but he's a big lad. So I like him. He looks like he'll play off half forward. I do still have Sam Lawler there, because if he is named round 1, his job security will keep him in there. I was a bit worried about his role. I thought he would get more midfield time with Taranto, Prestia, who's now injured, by the way, and won't start the season. Big shock there. And Hopper not playing, but that kind of looks like the role for all of these guys. So I think he looked decent doing it. Sid Draper at number 4 just looked good.
Yeah, he did. And this is an interesting one, because I've heard a couple of articles, maybe stocks down, the scoring wasn't there, and potentially when he's not going to be playing huge midfield minutes, you wouldn't think that maybe there's going to be some fluctuations in the scoring, but I'd have to think his job security is pretty good. He looked a ready-made player.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Adelaide looks much deeper this year. So I think Adelaide are set to improve a fair bit based on the one preseason match I've watched so far, but they do look improved and deeper. So that could be a concern, but I agree that of the rookies from the eye test, he passed for me. And then we're starting against some players where I'm not sure if they're going to be there round 1. So Xavier Lindsay, I think he has a nice role, friendly role. He's got a great kick on him. Just a few outside players that weren't there make me a little nervous for his job security. And Hugh Boxhall, who was the surprise packer from St Kilda, I have him at number 6.
We love the big box.
Because he's coming from somewhere I didn't expect, I want to see it again. He wasn't really on my radar. He's on my radar now. But if he puts up another performance, he might leapfrog like a Lindsay and make a big case to start on our benches as a 230k mid. So he's there. I do want to give a shout out to Josh Smiley, who is coming off a bit of an injured hamstring. He is, I think, 50-50 to play the next the Community Series game, but I expect him to get some midfield time at Richmond. Angus Hasty, who's also a 230k mid. I think he played a bit in defence. And Murphy Reed, who... Did you see much of him in that All-Star versus Fremantle game? Because I don't remember hearing much about him. But apparently recent practice matches or inter... What do you call it? The... Intra-club match, he's been playing well. I've seen some positive things online recently, so maybe he'll get a go in the Community Series game. So
great one to keep an eye out for.
Put him on your radar. So those are some of the honourable mentions, but yeah, it's again... And maybe we've just been spoilt with great rookies in the past couple of years. You know, Sheasel and Ashcroft, Dacos. You know, Harley Reid even to an extent. You had Matt Roberts last year. We had Harry Sharp. We had McKercher. Like, maybe we've just been spoilt a bit, and this is just what they're going to be.
Could be the year of the mid-pricer. How many rookies are currently on field in the midfield at Mitchmond?
I have 2.
So you still got the 2 there?
I have 2.
Okay.
But I'm interested in... I see you've got the 1 there with a player like Nathan O'Driscoll, who
something you said
maybe is a discussion for another day, but
yeah,
it is something I think we should be exploring around. I think they're filling it with 4 and maybe even 3 rookies in our midfield might be less enticing now to me, though. I think the 2 rookies in the mids is looking better.
Something you said on our structure episode, going down from that mid-pricer to the popping rookies easier than going up. I mean, you know, just goes without saying, making cash is harder. So, I don't know. There's a few mid-pricers that are putting their hands up. So maybe, you know, there's less rookies, so it dictates our structure.
Yeah, if they're not there to pick, then don't pick them.
Can't pick them. Got to go somewhere else.
So, I think it's very interesting. Like I said, let's wait and see the next one. But Jagger being out that's a crushing blow, not only for obviously our fantasy teams, but for him as well. It was going to be great to see him play. So, one we'll just have to store away for next year. In the rucks, there's one man, and I think he's going to be there. I think he's going to be a must-have player. And that's Harry Boyd. Mature, what is he, 27 years old, ruckman, brute of a player. Just bullies people. He held his own against who did they play against? Pitnet and De Koning. So yeah, I think he's there. You lock him in. I think even if he's not there, you lock him in because he'll get a chance at some point.
Yeah, and he can be your loop if he's not. So you're coming around to 3 green dots.
30
green dots.
30 green dots.
Apologies.
Yeah, I think I am. I think I am because of the early buys and the way they structure up this year. If I get a thumper of an emergency score or a thumper of a vice captain score, I'll revise that. Because I do have some question marks over these rookies. It might not be in the ruck that I put my red dot.
Yeah, somewhere else.
It might be in the defense line that I set a red dot there, potentially. So I'm open to it. Still lots of water to go under the bridge, but I do think Harry Boyd is looking like a player that I'm pretty keen to start. Because I think he plays, he's going to make a lot of money for us.
I bloody led on to my new strategy of only picking 23 players.
Hey,
I tell
loophole!
You the T-Bod field is amazing. You won't beat me. I promise you that.
Liam Reedy, he's there.
Ready to go?
Yeah, nice. Recycling my joke.
Did you make that one?
Yeah, last time we talked about him.
I don't listen to your gear.
Clearly not. I think he's too expensive to have on your bench. I just don't think the cash generation is going to be enough, and if we're going to try and fit more of these mid-prices in our side and less rookies, I think we're going to need the cash. I know there's a lot of people talking about, how do we spend all this cash and all this stuff? I think these rookies, being question marks, are going to provide us an avenue to put our cash to maybe getting some off field. So I think it's too much cash. Personally, I could be wrong, but those are my thoughts, I think, for Reedy.
We may have saved the more positive news for last because there actually have been, I think, a few forward rookies that have put their hand up in the match sim so far. I
think that we'll have a few to choose from. The scoring capacity is maybe the harder thing to decipher, but I think there'll be names at least.
What's your order? Share your order with me.
I've got Elijah Hewitt still at number 1. Not as confident as I was maybe a week ago, but he's at number 1. I've got sold as a rock.
Sorry, I was going to say on field for Hewitt or no?
He still is currently on field for me.
Okay.
I'm debating and questioning that at the moment, but he still is on field. Sold as a rock, Connor Stone at number 2. Sam Davidson, number 3. Cody Angove as a bolter at number 4, and Max Hall as another bolter at number 5. So Stone, Davidson, and Max Hall are all basement price, which is nice.
Well, Stone, tell me about Stone, because he must have played well in that game that you watched, because I was very impressed by Davidson, and you've got Stone ahead of him on your little list there.
Yeah, I think his role is better. He's 22 years old, and Davidson's also a mature age player, but he played halfback. I don't think that there was a lot of players out for GWS as well.
Played?
Whitfield played, Ash played. The only player I think that was out was Sam Taylor,
okay,
who's a bit more of a key back. So I think, if anything, that could be a positive thing for Stone. I just think the role, if he's there named round 1, I think the role is, of all of these players, maybe the best. So that's what got him to number 2 there. Sam Davison, I think, will have, as most wingers do, some fluctuating scores, but I think his job security looks pretty safe, and I like the look of him. Cody Angove, he wasn't on my radar until the game, but he looked good. Kicked 2 goals. Strikes me as a player that could be there at the start, maybe last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then is dropped. I know there's a lot of suspensions at GWS and some players coming back in the later couple rounds. I'm a little hesitant to say that he'll keep people from coming back and taking his spot after they're ready to go, but for now, he did look good. And then Max Hall, similarly, like, again, I find it hard to put these guys that had great preseason games but weren't heaps high on my radar right up. But I do think that, yeah, especially when they're basement price, like Hall and Davidson and things were, like, it's hard to ignore. Got anything on Angove there?
Just a nice little patch in the right up there saying that he didn't look off the pace.
Yeah, he looked good. Some honorable mentions. Joe Berry, I still don't mind. I think his job security is one of the better ones.
It's just the role that's perhaps not
as
as
small
fruitful.
Forward. I like him. If I'm choosing between him and Kako at the moment, it's Berry over Kako. Daniel Curtin, I think his job security is pretty solid too, but again, he's sort of like, I think he'll be parked to the forward line. And Hutchinson, probably the best quote-unquote role, but in the West Coast Eagles team, I'm not sure if that's the case. Like, a wing on a West Coast team which had the worst team average in 10, 11 years is not actually a good role.
Yeah.
Because they're going to kick it over his head a fair bit, I think. I'd prefer in that team if he was maybe more of that high half forward or half back inside. On a wing, I just feel like it's tough. And he's at an elevated price. So that's why he doesn't make the top 5 list, because I don't know if paying up for him will be worth it at the end of the day when we've got these other cheaper options that I think can do comparable scoring. So, yeah.
Job security or scoring potential?
Both, can I say?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Like Joe Berry made me think about it. You know, we expect that he is going to play that role and play it very well. But it's just not the role that we want. Maybe it's 50s.
If you have
week.
someone who you expect is going to come out and go 80, 80, 80 and then get dropped, I would prefer that player than a guy who goes 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, because that's enough of a big score that you can make quick cash and get off.
Yeah.
If it's a difference between a 50 and a 60, and the 60 has questionable job security and the 50 has good, I'll take the 50 because the difference is not that big. But if you think a player is going to come out and smash it and his job security is shaky, I'd take that risk because you only need 2 or 3 or 4 games and then he's done his job. He can go on field for you. You can get him off, get the next guy in. So now that's very hard to know at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my thoughts on the theory, I guess, at least. Because we've seen that come up mid-season as well with some of these guys.
I think we're going to be hoping, just like everyone else, that this week we get to watch some footy and see some people put their hands up, hey?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of these guys, like if we go through the list, so Zach Reed, James Leake, Sardell Hooley, Levi Ashcroft, Who else here?
You're talking about round 0.
Yeah, round 0. Connor Stone, Cody Angove. There's 6 players there on this list that I've got that are going to be playing round 0. So there's 6 players that we're going to be very confident to say either they're in outside or you can confidently put a line through them because they score shit or they're not there or, that sort of a thing. So that's going to give us some more confidence. Hopefully these community series games gives us the other, let's call it, 6 or 7 players from our starting squad that we need to lock in for our rookies.
Beautiful. Nice little bite-sized episode, mate. Just a snack.
Little snack. Yeah, a little snack just in these rookies. Because, as someone said at the start of this episode, we don't know our ass from our elbow.
Don't know shit from shoe polish.
when it comes to our rookies. So, but no, stay tuned for this one. And if you haven't already and you are interested in having the best AFL fantasy season possible, both for Classic and for Draft, head over to Ball Boys Patreon at patreon.com/Ball Boys. Sign up for $10 a month today. You can get all the preseason notes. If you're running into it late, you want my preseason projections, you want the blueprint for a top 100 season, you want every practice match, every match sim summarized in there, Q&As, exclusive podcasts, everything there is for you for just $10 a month. Sign up now and we would much appreciate it. But we'll see you guys for the next one. Until then, bye.